Good afternoon. Welcome everybody to the regular council meeting of Monday, November 6th. We will call the meeting to order at 1 p.m. We begin the meeting with the land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the township of Cabmonaghan is located on the Treaty 20 Mississauga territory in the traditional territory of the Mississauga Anishinaabe people. We offer our gratitude to First Nations for their care for and teachings about these lands. May we honor these teachings. I'll look to council for approval of the agenda before us today. Councillor Burns, seconded by Deputy Mayor Huntley. All in favor? That is approved. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest at this time? Seeing none, there is no closed session. And with that, we'll move into 6.1, which is a resolution to open the public meeting. So that the motion, and we need a mover and a seconder, that the public meeting be opened in accordance with Section 34 of the Planning Act. Councillor Byrne, Deputy Mayor Huntley, all in favor? That is approved. 6.2 is the report with regards to the public meeting. Ms. Ellis.
Mayor Graham, members of council, members of the public and staff. Today's public meeting is about a proposed zoning bylaw amendment for lands in part of lot 23, concession 11, Cavan. If you could flip to the key map, Jess, that would be helpful. The purpose of today's public meeting is to give members of the public an opportunity to express questions, comments regarding the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, and staff can provide some information to answer any questions, and council will then consider those comments before making a decision on the application. So the key map before you on the screen shows the subject lands for application ZBA-06-23. The zoning bylaw amendment application is required to fulfill a condition of severance applications B-2323, B-22-23, and B-2123. So the key map indicates the location of the severed lots, and you can see the dark gray in the top right-hand corner of the subject property are the 3 lots that are proposed to be created by severance. The orange line indicates the current limit of the hamlet designation. The lighter gray indicates the remainder of the property. The severance application is proposed to create the 3 new residential lots. Each of those lots will be approximately 3,800 square meters or 0.94 acres in size. And each of the lots will have approximately 40 meters or 131 feet of frontage on Stewart Line. The retained lot, which is the lighter gray, will be approximately 9 hectares or 22 acres in size, with approximately 79 meters or 260 feet of frontage on Stewart Line. The retained lot will continue to be used for residential and agricultural purposes, and at this time, no new buildings or structures are proposed. The lands before us today are currently zoned agricultural, future development, and natural linkage. So Jess, if you could flip to Schedule A, please. So with the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, a portion of the property will be rezoned from the future development zone and the agricultural zone to the hamlet residential zone. So the proposed severed lots in the top right-hand corner will be zoned hamlet residential. Each of those lots meet the standard lot frontage and lot area requirements of the hamlet residential zone. This zoning bylaw amendment will also rezone a portion of the subject lands from the future development zone and the agricultural zone to the agricultural exception 21 zone. The minimum lot area requirement in the agricultural exception 21 zone will be 9 hectares or 22 acres instead of the standard lot area requirement of 40 hectares or 98.8 acres. The portion of the property currently zoned natural linkage, which is at the bottom of the subject property, will remain unchanged. Notice of the public meeting was provided in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act. First-class prepaid mail notices were sent to all assessed persons within 120 meters of the subject lands. Notices were also mailed to the required ministries and agencies via first-class prepaid mail and email. Signage was posted on the property on the Stewart Line frontage. The draft bylaw and the notice were posted on the township website, and we also circulated internally to township departments. The planning report associated with this application indicated that we did receive comments from several agencies: Enbridge, Hiawatha First Nation, Peterborough Public Works, the Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board, Peterborough Public Health, and Autonomy Conservation have indicated that they have no objections to the application. Township staff have no objection to the application. And it's not indicated in the report, but subsequent to the finalization of the report, the township did receive a comment from an area resident indicating that they wanted the right to participate and comment at the public meeting, and they have requested notice of council's decision. No other comments have been received to date. The application before council today has been reviewed with respect to the policies contained in the provincial policy statement 2020, the growth plan 2022, Peterborough County official plan, and the township of Cavan-Monaghan official plan. The application is consistent with the PPS and conforms to the growth plan, county official plan, and township official plan. That is why today staff are recommending that council receive and consider all comments received today related to the zoning bylaw amendment application, and that following the public meeting, bylaw number 2023-69 be presented to council for approval.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. We'll move on to 6.3, which is opportunity for questions and comments from members of council for Ms. Ellis. Deputy Mayor Huntley.
Through your chair to Ms. Ellis, I'm curious about the hamlet designation line and why it cuts through the properties instead of following the property lines. Is there a reason for that? Or am I just misinterpreting?
To you, Deputy Mayor Huntley, to members of council, members of the audience. So the hamlet designation was established at the time when we did the township's official plan. The hamlet designation at the time followed the existing lot fabric. So that's why you see the change in the lot configuration. It followed the existing lot fabric. The lots being created today follow the lot fabric of the lots to the east. So a portion of the lots is in the hamlet and a portion out, but there is wiggle room in the official plan that the line only is absolute when it follows the road, river, railway, etc. So there gives us a little flexibility. And those hamlet designation boundaries will be reviewed at the time when the township does the new official plan.
So follow-up question then, Chair. So I guess that explains why the bottom quarter of those properties are still in agricultural zoning and not into the hamlet zoning or residential zoning at that point, future development. You're right. Sorry. So it's not the whole lot doesn't become future development, just the part within the hamlet becomes future development.
To you, Deputy Mayor Huntley, members of council, members of the public. Yes. So the lots will be zoned hamlet residential. The remainder of the property is the retained lot, the portion of the retained lot that's in future development right now will be in the agricultural exception zone. So on this property, there will be no more future development zone. There is still hamlet designation, but there is no more future development zone.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Other questions? Councilor Byrne.
Through the chair, with the 24 houses going just south of there on Cathcart Crescent in that area, and they talk about the draw on the groundwater for residential use. And there's studies that are going to be done once they're in full occupancy. Does these 3 homes going to fall under some of that testing or verifying whether the groundwater can support all that?
To you, Councilor Byrne, members of council, members of the audience. These 3 lots are not subject to the testing or the monitoring that will take place for the Springville Heights subdivision. These lots are proposed to be created through the land division process at Peterborough County. There's severances. It's not uncommon, but it's not uncommon that that a Hydro-G report is required for lots created by severance. So they will not be subject to the same testing requirements. The township did not ask for any Hydro-G information in this particular with these applications because historically we have not had any indications that water quality or quantity is a problem in that area.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Other questions? Seeing none, we can move on to the portion of the meeting with asking any members of the public who wish to come forward and speak to the report and the ZBA before us today. I'll open it up for members of the public. If you would like to speak to it, you can approach the podium in the middle there, and if not, no worries. Going once, going twice, seeing none. We'll go back to 6.5 in the agenda, which is the council consideration of the report. Anyone wish to make any comments or move the recommendations in the report? I can read those aloud if anyone would like, but the two recommendations are that council receive and consider all comments related to the zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 0623, and that following the public meeting, bylaw number 2023-69 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2018-58 as amended, otherwise known as the Township of Gavin zoning bylaw, be presented to council for approval. Anyone, no other comments? Moved by Deputy Mayor Huntley, seconded by Councillor Natchoff. All in favor? That is approved. Thank you very much. We are still in the public meeting, but we'll move on to 6.6, which is the McCamus zoning bylaw amendment. Ms. Ellis.
Thank you, Mayor Graham, Deputy Mayor Huntley, members of council, members of the audience and staff. The second part of our public meeting involves lands in part of lot 21 concession 10 of Cavan. Jess, if you could go to the key map for this application, please. So the key map on the screen ahead of you shows the subject property outlined in light gray and dark gray. So like the last application, this zoning bylaw amendment is required to fulfill a condition of severance application B-176-22. The proposed severed lot is within the hamlet designation, and it's the darker gray lot on the west side of the property, just inside the hamlet designation. The retained lot is the lighter gray property that you can see identified by subject property. The severance application proposes to create one new residential lot that will be approximately 3,050 square meters or 0.8 acres in size, with approximately 78 meters or 255.9 feet of frontage on County Road 10. The size and shape of the proposed severed lot is somewhat related to the location of the Coldwater tributary feature and a significant woodland located east of the severed lot. The tributary forms part of the Cavan Creek Headwater watershed. The retained lot will be approximately 9 hectares or 22 acres in size. So the retained lot will be about 34.6 hectares or 85.6 acres in size, with approximately 675 meters of frontage on County Road 10, 150 meters frontage on Morton Line, and about 8 meters of frontage on Sharp Line. The property is currently undeveloped and supports an agricultural use and the natural heritage features. With this property, the subject lands are currently zoned agricultural, future development, natural linkage, and natural core. Jess, if you could switch to the Schedule A, please. And I do apologize for the scale of this mapping. It's a little bit more difficult to read, but I will tell you that the purpose of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone a portion of the subject lands from the future development zone to the hamlet residential zone. And this applies to the severed lot. And you can see there is hatching. I'm sorry about the quality, but there is, yeah, you can see it up there. The zoning bylaw amendment will also rezone a portion of the subject lands from the agricultural zone to the agricultural exception 22 zone. The minimum lot area requirement in the agricultural exception 22 zone will be 11.5 hectares or 28.4 acres instead of the standard lot area requirement of 40 hectares or 98.8 acres. That regulation pertains to the portion of the property currently zoned agricultural. It does not reflect the lot area of the retained. The zoning bylaw amendment will also maintain the current natural core and natural linkage zones. And the zoning bylaw amendment will also maintain a portion of the future development zone. Like the last application, notice of this public meeting was provided in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act. Notice of this application was provided by first-class prepaid mail to all assessed persons within 120 meters of the subject lands. It was mailed and emailed to the required ministries and agencies. Signage was posted on the County Road 10 and Morton Line frontages of the property. The notice was circulated to internal staff departments. The notice and the draft bylaw were posted on the township website. At the time of the writing of the report that's on the agenda, we had not received any information calls or objections, comments about the proposed application. Since the completion of the report, we've had 2 information calls from members of the public. Neither call has resulted in any written comments to date. Township staff have no objections. Enbridge Hiawatha First Nation, Peterborough Public Works, Fourth of Pine Ridge District School Board, Peterborough Public Health, and Autonomy Conservation have all indicated that they have no objection to the application. Like the last application, again, this application was reviewed with respect to the policies in the provincial policy statement, the growth plan, Peterborough County's official plan, and the Township of Cavan Monaghan official plan. The application is consistent with the PPS and conforms to the growth plan, county OP, and township OP. Staff recommend that council receive and consider all comments received related to the zoning bylaw amendment application, and that following the public meeting, bylaw number 2023-70 be presented to council for approval.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Moving on to 6.7, which is questions or comments from members of council with regards to the report. Deputy Mayor Huntley.
Through you, Chair, to Ms. Ellis. So I'm curious about the portion that was already designated future hamlet, or that's kind of the south end of that lot. Like, is there actually two lots there? And like we're creating one, or we're redesignated one as future, but was there already one sitting there? But this is indicating.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Huntley, members of council, members of the audience. So today, there's a severance application that's going to create one new residential lot. That residential lot will be located within the hamlet designation, and it's currently zoned future development. That new lot does not include all of the hamlet designation and all of the future development zone. So there is a remnant piece that is still designated hamlet and still zoned future development that is not associated with the creation of this lot. So it's a little bit bigger, but this rezoning application will fulfill the condition for the creation of one new residential lot.
Through you, Chair, that answers my question. I wasn't sure whether we were creating two separate ones, or we're just kind of expanding that future into one big sentence. So I got it, or one small sentence. I got it now. Thank you.
Other questions? Council Byrne.
Through the chair. So the hamlet designations were moved several years ago to allow the 15 houses being built in what they're now calling Cavan Woods on the west side of the County Road 10 at the corner of Ida. And I'm looking at this and it looks like it was expanded even farther west, which I wasn't aware of back then, to go past the old gravel pit on the Sharps farm. What I'm looking at here, the hamlet designation on the east side of the road that would incorporate that new building lot that's at present today. Was that also moved at the time that the boundaries of the hamlet of Ida were moved to allow that construction of the 15 homes?
To you, Councillor Byrne, members of council, members of the audience. So the hamlet designation boundary was adjusted to accommodate the I call it the Cameron subdivision, Cavan Woods. It was done through a site-specific official plan amendment. It applied to that subdivision property only. It did not affect any other property within the hamlet of Ida. The hamlet boundaries on both the east side of County Road 10 and further west of the subdivision were established during the creation of the township's official plan. And to the best of my knowledge, they have not been amended on either of those properties. If you remember, some of you might remember, we did another small adjustment on the north side of Sharp Line, just across from Cora Drive, to accommodate the creation of two new residential lots. That happened in 2021, 22, I believe.
Yeah, so Ms. Ellis, just to clarify, just from all of our understanding, including my own, the boundary itself is established during the OP process. If there are proportions of property that are within the zone, not the entirety of the property, they are eligible for considerations or rezoning through ZBAs and severances like we're going through now for those lots to be established. When they are approved and thusly established, that boundary is adjusted on an incremental basis to accommodate those that have been approved and endorsed by council. So the boundary moves to reflect those that have been approved, but the boundary itself, when it's normally established, is established only during the OP process. Is that a fair summation?
Through you, Mayor Graham, members of council, members of the audience. So just a quick lesson. So the boundaries of the hamlet are established during the official plan process. So we go through a public process, as you know, quite an extensive process. We establish the boundaries. within the hamlet designation, that's where growth is focused. Like in addition to the Millbrook settlement area, we do permit growth in the hamlet areas. That's why you're allowed to have a severance. The severance activity is all within Millbrook or within the hamlet. The hamlet designation is reflected in the zoning bylaw by the future development zone. So when we are considering a severance application, we don't generally change the official plan. Quite often, though, we have to change the zoning. So that's why we make it a condition of the approval of the severance, because we move it from the future development zone, which only recognizes existing uses, and we change it so that we can permit a single detached dwelling and the standard accessory buildings that go with that. So having said that, it's anyone's right to apply for a planning application whenever they want. And we evaluate it under the policy framework at the time. But with this application, we are considering a severance application within an established hamlet boundary that zoned FD to reflect that hamlet designation. And now it's with the approval of the consent, you're going to see one new single detached dwelling.
Ms. Ellis, very clear. Other questions, members of council? Councilor Byrne.
Through the chair, when I'm looking at these two maps of the same lot, trying to figure out what the ravine and the watershed there that has a small pond down in it and a bit of a seasonal water runoff, that future development idea, are those areas going to be allowed to be part of lots in the future? Is that their thinking, or how does that natural linkage and stuff maintain or preserve any of that property?
Through you, Councillor Byrne, to members of council, members of the public. So the existing natural features are being maintained through the preservation of the natural core and natural linkage zones. This application is not going to change those. That natural core and natural linkage zones were placed on the property to protect those features. And with the severed lot, when they filed application with Peterborough County, the applicants did provide a natural heritage evaluation to Peterborough County for review to determine that the lot would not have an adverse impact on those natural features. So with the application before you today, the existing natural core and natural linkage zones are being maintained so that those features can be protected. How things unfold in the future as we move through a new planning era with the provincial changes and our new official plan and new mapping that the province might come out, I don't know. But right now we are preserving those existing features. The existing zoning that reflects the limits of those features is being maintained.
We've been waiting the updated PPS, so the provincial policy statement. Thought it was supposed to be coming out end of September, and here we are in November, and we still do not have that document, which is going to answer a lot of those technical questions as to the implications moving forward for our official plan when we're able to start that document. Other questions, members of council? Seeing none, we'll then move on to open it up for members of the public. Same process. Anyone wishing to speak can approach the podium. Mr. Taylor, you know the process, so I won't give you the rigmarole about the buttons. So very familiar. So I'll turn it over to you, sir. Just as you're aware, just the name and the property, etc.
Here we go. I'm a lawyer acting for the applicants, Mary Ellen McCamus and Robert McCamus. Mary Ellen is present in case there's any questions that you might wish to address through me that have not been otherwise submitted by the council members. As indicated by Ms. Ellis, the property is composed in part by the hamlet of Ida. We're not expanding the settlement area. This particular settlement boundary has existed since the comprehensive review that was undertaken many years ago in terms of your official plan. The lot itself is entirely within the hamlet designation. As noted by Ms. Ellis, this is in conformity with all of the applicable policies, provincial policy, county policy, and your township policy as well. I should indicate to you, though, that there has been a significant pre-consultation process that was undertaken in reference to the severance application. The severance application was supported by significant reports. There was an environmental impact assessment undertaken by Oak Ridge Consultants. There was a natural heritage assessment looking at the linkage areas in order to protect them that were identified. There is a condition incidental to the approval of the severance for what's called a mitigation measures agreement. We also undertook a functional servicing report. There have been questions about the subdivision in the hamlet as well. But this particular proposed lot also was the subject of a site-specific functional servicing report by Oak Ridge Environmental. There was a test hole done by the applicants, and it was reviewed and considered by Peterborough Public Health in terms of the proposed septic system. So from all of the servicing aspects, whether it be the sewage system or whether it be the water supply, it was all site-specifically assessed incidental to the severance process. In relation to the proposal, your staff has recommended it, and we endorse the comments that are found in the staff report. So from the standpoint of the provisional approval that's been provided by County Land Division, you should also note that my client will be satisfying conditions to provide some road widening for the county road. That's a condition of the approval as well. And so that is all presently being undertaken within the context of the completion of any survey. Subject to any questions from my client's perspective, this is in conformity with the hamlet designation that you've had in your official plan for some time, and is also in conformity with the hamlet uses that presently exist. I can indicate to you that the lot size and the lot configuration was driven predominantly by your standards that are found in your hamlet residential zone. We actually designed the lot in order to conform with your standard hamlet residential zone and its regulations. Subject to any questions?
Mr. Taylor, Councilor Byrne, you have a question with regards to Mr. Taylor's comments?
Through the chair, two interesting things that you just highlighted there. They just finished a whole lot of construction on the County Road 10. I'm not sure what widening you might be thinking of. I wasn't aware of it at all, but it's just been done. The other thing I was going to state was the fact that the lot sizing for this hamlet designation, I know in the past, the 15 houses going in across the road all had to be at a full acre in order to get the so-called septic systems approved. And that's why the hamlet designation was moved farther down the hill. And that doesn't seem to be the case today.
If I can reply to that, the county itself asked for future road widening, not necessarily in terms of actually physically widening the county road at this point in time, but for any particular future contingencies, they wanted the extra land. We're willing to give them the extra land. Secondly, in terms of the subdivision approval, I did read the hydrogeology reports, even though I'm not directly interested in that subdivision, and I can understand the commentary that led to the 1 acre sizes. Your particular minimum lot area in the hamlet residential is 3,000 square meters. And whether that's driven by science and hydrogeology is another issue. I've had hearings as it would relate to minimum lot size dealing with different types of septic systems. There are 3 different types of tertiary systems now that are available in the market that have been approved under the building code. In this particular jurisdiction, the most common alternative tertiary treatment that might lead to a smaller lot size is called the Waterloo biofilter system. Your staff's acquainted with that because we had one hearing associated with that particular system. But there's 2 others that have entered onto the market, and their treatment of nitrates and phosphates are approximately 10,000 times better. Contemplate that. 10,000 times better than your conventional Class C system. So we've identified a lot size to conform with your particular requirement.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Follow up, Councilor Byrne.
Through the chair, yes, I'm aware of that, but the other ones, they require maintenance and upkeep, and there's a lot more to get that 10,000 threshold, and that's all fine, regardless of what I was really concerned with. And we spoke before, my big thing going forward is there's one set of rules for everybody. It's the same set of rules, and we all play by those set of rules, and I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. I don't believe there's any other comments from Mr. Taylor at this time. Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to speak with regards to the public meeting we're having at the moment? Going once, going twice, seeing none. We'll move back to council's considerations of the report before us. There are two recommendations. The council receive and consider all comments related to the zoning bylaw amendment application, the ZBA-07-23, and that following the public meeting, bylaw number 2023-70 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2018-58 as amended, otherwise known as the Township of Catamonican zoning bylaw, be presented to council for approval. We're in a seconder for those recommendations. Councilor Byrne, Deputy Mayor Huntley, all in favor? That is approved. Thanks everyone for participating in the public meeting. With that, we'll need a resolution to close the public meeting. Councilor Edgerton, Councilor Natchoff, all in favor. The public meeting is here closed. Thank you everyone for attending today. I'll give you guys a moment to clear out. Moving on in the agenda, we had one delegation registered, but they have requested since the publication of the agenda to move to a later date. So we will not be having that delegation today. So with that, we will move on to the minutes of the regular council meeting held October 16th. Can I get a mover and a seconder for those minutes? Councilor Byrne, Councilor Natchoff, all in favor. Those minutes are approved as presented. Minutes from committees and boards, the Catamonican Public Library Board meeting minutes of June 6th and September 29th are in your package. Just looking for a receiver for information for those minutes. Councilor Natchoff, Councilor Byrne, all in favor. That is approved. Moving to the reports portion of our meeting, 10.1, report Public Works Depot Operations Agreement with Circular Materials Ontario. Mr. Hancock, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to council. Report Public Works 2023-22 is before you with the following recommendations. Number one, that council approve the depot operations agreement with Circular Materials Ontario for haulage and disposal services for blue box materials received at the transfer station from January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2025. Number two, that the clerk and mayor be authorized to sign the bylaw 2023-73, being a bylaw to execute a depot operations agreement between the Township of Catamonican and Circular Materials Ontario for haulage and disposal services of blue box materials received at the transfer station. And Mr. Mayor, we did attach a report that we did in February of this year that provided some of the insight into the ongoing changes in the waste management area. From a point of view of staff, senior staff worked very hard with other municipalities in the area to arrive at the present agreement that CMO has before us. And number two, the date is coming at us very fast, so we've been pushing very hard to get to this point. The bottom line, as I see it, is that we have an opportunity. The operations at the transfer station, for the most part, will not change. You will not see Emterra is to be the contractor for CMO and will be doing the operations. Emterra will be doing the curbside operations and they will be doing ICI. So you're not going to see any changes as of the 1st of January. And they will provide the depot, the bin collection at our depot. So the agreement's before you, and I look forward to questions from council.
Thank you, Mr. Hancock. With regards to the period of the agreement, is this agreement pertaining to the period between 2024 and 2026? And then is it renewed on an annual basis after the fact, or are we expecting significant changes after 2026?
Mr. Mayor, the agreement has in it 3 one-year extensions. So there is a clause in there that allows for both the municipality and CMO to extend this for an additional 3 years. This is primarily primarily the transitional period, which is referred to as the 1st of January to December 31st. So it is that 2-year period. And I think in fairness, we're going to see other changes maybe come forward and other problems that might exist in the recycling industry along with waste management. But this agreement is 2 years presently with 3 one-year extensions.
Thank you, Mr. Hancock, for that clarification. Questions, members of council? Councilor Byrne.
Through the chair, I was trying to figure out who actually is a contractor. Do our 2 employees at the transfer station fall under the designation of contractors for this new CMO? And because there was talk of the bins being either traded, given, or sold because they belong to county now. And if we go into this agreement, CMO is going to hire a contractor, I believe is where I understand it, and they'll be using the old county bins. Is there a cost or anything transitioning from one to the other?
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Byrne, first of all, in the agreement, the municipality, the term contractor refers to us as the municipality. So they've used that term. We did ask at a number of occasions to have that term contractor changed, but it was not. They wanted to use that as contractor. CMO is subject to us opting in at today's meeting or opting into this agreement. CMO will have a contract administrator. It's referred to as RLG that will look after the contract. Emterra is the contractor, the haulage contractor, but for the term of this agreement, the contractor reference is to us and it's to our employees. You're quite right, at the transfer station. The bins there were presently owned by the County of Peterborough. As I understand, they're being sold to Emterra, and those will belong to Emterra, the haulage contractor. That is my understanding of the process, and that signage and whatnot as part of this advertising, that's something that we'll be looking after as part of our agreement with them. And we will look after, as we presently do at the transfer station, the proper handling of the materials into the bins at the site. But the Emterra, the haulage contractor, will come as they do presently, and they will pick up the front end loaded bins. They will take the materials away for disposal. So but in the agreement, you'll see the reference to contractor. That is referring to us as the township.
Follow-up question, Councilor Byrne.
Through the chair. So it talks about these agreements between the 436 or whatever municipalities. Is ours standard or is ours somewhat unique in any aspects? And if Emterra ends up with the bins, then when CMO decides to go to another, I guess they have to bid for that on an annual basis of some sort. Do those bins then become sold again? How's all this going to work down the road? I'm having a hard time grasping how all this is going to play out well for us as a township as far as saving us any money.
Through Mr. Mayor to Councilor Byrne again. First of all, the senior staff had a number of conversations with CMO over the content of the agreement. The agreement is a template, and the reason it's a template agreement, it is consistent with all the municipalities that they're dealing with across Ontario. So that's one of the reasons why you're dealing with a agreement that has a lot of clauses in it. The only difference that shows up in the agreements is primarily the financial data. And in this agreement, we have an opportunity to receive revenue totaling, as it's noted in the report, of just over $35,000 a year as revenue being paid for us providing the operations at our transfer station depot. So this, in that light, is a bonus. In the on the point of the bins, the CMO has left it as part of their tender that the contractor of haulage will supply bins. So that arrangement can change over time, and it's really not under our control. All we are going to be guaranteed is there will be bins available in good, reasonable shape at our location. How they get there, how they're whether they change contractors, that's all going to be controlled by somebody else, not really our say.
Through the chair, so it comes up later, and I don't know if I should be bringing it up now or not, but they talk about P&E, so promotions and education. And they also talk about different things that used to be acceptable are not going to become acceptable. So are you then expecting the staff down at the transfer station to determine if somebody qualifies? I asked way back when they came forward with this promotion a while ago. They mentioned commercial farms, but they have no idea what the definition is going to be of a commercial farm. Or is the onus going to be on our staff down at the transfer station to now say you're not allowed to bring your recyclables to this location because of this new policy that we've implemented?
Through Mr. Mayor, again to Councillor Byrne, there's, first of all, the onus is not on staff to provide. The advertising for the most part will stay the same as it has in the past. You're going to see maybe if there's a problem with some particular materials or something like that, the site, we may be requested to put up a billboard sign. We may be able to put up a sandwich board sign, something of that nature. But generally, staff are going to perform the duties that they do today. Nothing special. The advertising will be as it is, as it has been. There's been flyers that have been made available. They will continue to be made available, and staff aren't expected at the transfer station to do anything more or less than they do today. So that's the issue of if, the bins are being not operated properly, it's a case of them overseeing that operation of the placement of the recyclables, but nothing to the point that will be over, where they're trying to explain to residents there's been a change in recycling. In the document, it talks about what they call two types of recycled materials. That hasn't really changed either. You're seeing the materials you've seen before. There are materials that are not acceptable. They have not changed, and a good example of that has been styrofoam. We've seen that historically. That's not changing. So the industry generally is not changing. You're going to see, I think, more materials added to the recycling industry. You're going to see more plastics. You're going to see different materials added. But it's not expected that staff will have to deliver any messages to residents at that transfer station. If there's a message, it will be ours is signage and ours is promotional material provided to us by CMO. So we will deal with that through our media campaigns as we do at our office presently. It's not expected that you will deal with a one-on-one and there'll be any type of confrontational things with staff. That's not the intent at all, and it should not happen.
Thank you, Mr. Hancock. Deputy Mayor Huntley.
Through you, Chair, I guess from a resident's perspective, I mean, the recycling today is handled by the county. Tomorrow, after this agreement, it's being handled by CMO. From our perspective, nothing really changes. From a user's perspective, nothing really changes. The transfer station's still there. It still collects the recycling the same way it did before. The only real difference is now we get to charge somebody for the use of the space at our transfer station. So net, we just see revenue from this, what we wouldn't see previously. Is that my understanding?
To the Deputy Mayor, you're 100% correct on that.
Councillor Natchoff.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Just a quick question in respect to the 3 one-year option renewals. I'm assuming then, since nothing was said, that no predetermined price increase has been discussed at that time.
Through Mr. Mayor, again to Councillor Natchoff, there is no, we have a set agreement there. There is a dollar amount. I don't think we will see much change. We have a CPI indexing included in that, but I don't expect you'll see much different in the annual amounts as you go forward. I expect you'll see slight increases because of just inflation.
Thank you, Mr. Hancock. Councillor Byrne.
I am somewhat concerned though with this creation of the CMO and calling it a nonprofit. it has the appearance the same as MPAC, when a non-profit business where that it's just an empire that keeps growing and growing. And my biggest fear is down the road when they figure out this doesn't work. How do we ever get back to what we had that actually worked?
Well, in all fairness to Mr. Hancock, I mean, this is mandated by the province in the act. I mean, there's no alternatives to the CMO. This is where the province has directed all municipalities to go forward. And I think all of the municipalities in the discussion at the county has been a tremendous amount of concerns and inflexibility to addressing more regional approaches to waste management when it comes to the recycling and processing recycled materials. So I think everyone is concerned about that inflexibility and not having that opportunity. However, the act dictates to the municipalities how this is going to be rolled out. There's no flexibility in that, or there's no alternative service provision for that process that wouldn't result in a tremendous burden, if not an impossible riddle for municipalities to solve, as all of the municipalities of the entire province are moving to this arrangement. So if future governments want to undo the whole process, which has been done in other or replicated in other provinces, I mean, there's really nothing we can do to insulate ourselves with regards to the agreement. I know our township and a number of other townships and their staff throughout the county have been trying to flag a lot of more of our specific regional issues, to which there's been some listening, but not foundational changes when it comes to this original template. So as many things, it will be an interesting transition period. So I'm happy to see that they're keeping business as usual for now. And we will all wait with bated breath to see where we go in the future after the 3-year term is up. Deputy Mayor Huntley.
Through you, Chair, I echo everything you said. I think that's the answer. If you're looking for CMO, but I'll put on my other lens to this, and the formation of the CMO is to make producers pay for their recycling. You know, so the downstream effect should be, theoretically, of course, that the producers of the material start to reduce the amount of material that goes into the products they produce, having a better effect on our planet overall. So as much as we're debating about, you know, whether we're paying for bins or not paying for bins, the whole concept of this thing is to load back onto the producers the costs that they're generating everybody else. So this is a step in the right direction, in my opinion. And I think it's great. And I really hope we do see a long-term benefit of producers being smarter about the packaging that they use with it, sell the products.
Yeah, it's a fair point, and I think the intention is well intended, and the outcome is something that's noble. I think the disruptions along the way are something that we're all sort of concerned about, but the intention is accurate, and we'll wish it well as we continue to move forward, as we always do, right, Mr. Hancock? Other questions, members of council? If not, we'll look for a mover and a seconder for the 2 recommendations in the report before us, unless anyone has any objections. Moved by Deputy Mayor Huntley, seconded by Councillor Nachoff. All in favor? That is approved. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next report, Corporate Services 2023-10, Dog Control and Kennel License Updates. Ms. Page.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to yourself and the rest of council. Before you is Corporate Services Report 2023-10, Dog Control and Kennel License Bylaw Updates. The recommendations are that council approve bylaw number 2023-71, being a bylaw to provide for the licensing and registration of dogs and for prohibiting and regulating the running at large of dogs, and that council approved bylaw number 2023-72, being a bylaw to license, regulate, and govern kennels in the township of Cavan Monaghan. As outlined in the report, over the last 24 months, staff have undergone a modernization in our financial software, and there's a new program called Virtual City Hall. Within that module is an invoicing component for dog tags. As our current structure has been in place for a very long time, it is set to double after March 31st. So staff are proposing that we align the dog fee structure as well as the kennel fee, which we generally never have actually had to impose the late fee because our dog control officer does go and get those kennel licenses inspected prior to the March 31st deadline. But we're asking that council support the removal of that double fee and have the dog licensing fee schedule follow our accounts receivable collection policy. So if anybody has any questions, I'm here to answer them.
So the majority of this is to accommodate the new technology that will streamline the provision of this service to the community that is consistent with the existing bylaw. Is that correct, Ms. Page?
Absolutely correct.
I read it correctly then for the first time. 2 questions, Councillor Byrne, I'll let you go first, and then Deputy Mayor Hunt.
Through the chair, that $10,000 in revenue, is that from fines or fees or a combination of both?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Byrne, that is just for dog tag licenses. That's the revenue that we generate from selling the licenses. So it's generally a $15 or $20 fee, depending if the dog is treated or not treated. And we're about $1,000 roughly is what we gather after the March 31st deadline.
Deputy Mayor Huntley?
Through your chair, I think the clerk just answered my question. Was this whole report is about $1,000. So just getting that policy aligned properly. Thank you.
Seeing no other questions, I'll look for a mover and a seconder for the two recommendations of the report. Deputy Mayor Huntley, Councillor Natchoff, all in favor? That is approved. Moving on to 10.3, council committee verbal reports. Any verbal report updates from committees? Council. Deputy Mayor Huntley.
Through your chair, just a quick shout out or call out that, there's a number of committees looking for volunteers, BIA specifically. But I think there's a couple other committees out there. So if we can rally some people in to help volunteer on these committees, that would be fantastic.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Huntley. Councillor Byrne.
Through the chair, I just wondered, were you going to mention about the Legion and the death of? Okay.
Any other committees updates? So, yep, as Councillor Byrne alluded to, there's a number of items to address, but I'll go for both myself, Deputy Mayor Huntley, Councillor Natchoff, and Councillor Byrne attended the Remembrance Day dinner on Saturday this weekend. And I wanted to specifically recognize three individuals that have been long serving: Rob Ross, John Dyke, and Diane Corp. All received special recognitions from the province with regards to their long tending service. And obviously those names will be familiar to the majority of us for serving our community and being part of the Legion in all of the events and capacities. So we wanted to specifically recognize those three individuals for their exceptional service, but we also recognized a number of members of the Legion at that event for receiving their pins for the number of years of different services. So it was a very nice event. And also kudos to the Girl Guides for their support for the volunteerism with the service of the event. So that was really nice to see. And they were very prompt and very quick to pick up the plates right below us. So that was very good. And I also want to thank MP Schmale for joining us that evening as well. In addition to that, it's a bit preluding a little bit ahead of time with regards to the events, but wanted to make note while the subject is before us that we do have the Remembrance Day service at the Cenotaph this weekend. I know the majority of council is going to be in attendance. Just a reminder to everyone that we should be at the Legion no later than 10:15 for the procession that precedes the service itself. And also we did recognize last night, but unfortunately this year will mark the first year in 104 years that Bill Bellinger won't be a part of our service. Unfortunately, Bill Bellinger passed away a couple of weeks ago, which is a tremendous loss for the community, for all that he represented, but also just being that physical testament of the service and the experience of our veterans. We will miss Mr. Bellinger. He was, a very visceral and very well-spoken member and representative for all of the veterans, and we will sadly miss him in this year's ceremony, but he will be there in front of the cenotaph with his likeness on the new banners that are still available as well. So we want to recognize Mr. Bellinger and thank him for his service in more ways than one. So he will be missed. With that, I'll look for a mover and a seconder for the council and committee verbal reports. Councillor Byrne, Deputy Mayor Huntley, all in favor? Those are approved. General business, Ms. Hurley.
Good afternoon. It's through you, council. Once again, we have the Roma conference coming up, and therefore we have all received the delegation requests. Should council, this is an item that we do bring forward. Should council wish to make a request to meet with any of the ministers, there is a formal application that you must submit, but we need a motion of council if there is any items that you would like to discuss with any of the upcoming ministers at the upcoming Roma conference. And there's no guarantee that those meetings are going to take place, but there's definitely a formal presentation or a formal form that we have to submit, and we have to submit it by a certain date. So it's just before council in case you have any suggestions or ideas that you'd like to meet with the minister.
Thank you, Ms. Hurley. I know the county is requesting delegation with the Minister of Health. I'm not aware of any others that no, I don't think as of yet. What is, do you know the deadline, or maybe the clerk know? Oh, there it is before us. So we will have, that will be, so we won't, I guess we'll need to do it today or not. So I don't have any prepared delegations. I'm not sure if we've even confirmed who among us is intending to attend Roma, but I don't have anything at this point. But if someone is interested in the delegation, now would be that time to speak up. Seeing none. Okay, thank you for bringing that to our attention, Ms. Hurley. Moving forward, correspondence for information. I see none. Correspondence for action. Also none. The bylaws. Bylaw number 2023-69 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2018-58 is amended, otherwise known as the Township of Catamonigan zoning bylaw, and bylaw number 2023-70 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2018-58 is amended, otherwise known as the Township of Catamonigan zoning bylaw, and bylaw number 2023-71 being a bylaw to provide for the licensing and registration of dogs and prohibiting regulating that the running of large of dogs, and bylaw number 2023-72 being a bylaw to license, regulate, and govern kennels in the Township of Catamonigan, and bylaw number 2023-73 being a bylaw to execute a depot operations agreement between the Township of Catamonigan and Circular Material Ontario for haulage and disposal services of blue box material received at the transfer station be read a first, second, and third time past this 6th day of November, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the corporate seal attached thereto. Moved by Councillor Edgerton, seconded by Councillor Natchoff, all in favor. Those bylaws are approved. There is no unfinished business. As there was a notice of motion at the previous meeting, Councillor Byrne, I will ask for a, do we need to read the motion again aloud? No. So Councillor Byrne make the motion with regards to the notice of motion. I'm assuming he would like to make that motion. Does anyone want to second the notice of motion this time? Seeing none, that motion is not carried. So we will, pardon me? Oh, okay. Well, that's what we were looking for. Seconded by Councillor Edgerton. Councillor Byrne, would you like to discuss the motion?
Through the chair, I just find it, when I'm talking to anybody in the community, we are a service industry, both council and staff, as far as I'm concerned, with the obligation to serve the public to the best of our abilities. When I hear people, the feedback I get that they find out that the building is closed for the lunch hour, I haven't found a positive response yet. Most of them are flabbergasted. I just think that as a service industry and serving the community, it makes sense that if somebody makes the effort to come up here on their lunchtime from their day job, that they should be able to get some kind of interaction with staff. It may not be to the best of what they want, but at least they're not turned away by a locked door.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. With regards to the motion, I think I'm going to turn it to Ms. Hurley because she and I have had a number of conversations about this predating this motion, but maybe I'll let Ms. Hurley clarify that before I fill in any gaps.
Through you to council. I mean, I will let you know that the mayor and myself have had this conversation over the past several months. There's been many changes that we're adhering to, everything from personnel to staffing to technology, new software. So we have been trying to open up the doors. Recently, we've just lost our customer service person at the front door. We're here actually quite sad to have her leave, but however, we're very happy that she's moving on. So we're in the middle of hiring new position there. So we have been talking about this. We have been trying to make arrangements to modify scheduling, and it's still on our radar to make that happen. These things happened a lot, I think happened because of COVID. A lot happened to make sure that people are comfortable in their workforce. And as I mentioned, some personnel matters that we've had to deal with. So our hope is that through the mayor, myself under operations and yourselves, that will be changing in the near future. But it is something that we're trying to reinstate here in Catamonigan as well. However, I was not aware of this prior to the motion. And if I was, then I'd be happy to have the conversation and give the information prior to, but I was not aware of that.
So with regards to the motion, it does have a seconder. I don't know, I think the specific motion, if I read it correctly, was looking for a report from council, but seeing as with regards to the content of Ms. Hurley's statement, is there still a willingness to move forward to push this notice of motion to a vote, or does that answer suffice? I guess that's what council has to decide at this point. So Councilor Byrne, it's your motion. Does any changes with regards to the comments from Ms. Hurley, or would you like to go to?
Through the chair, so the actual motion mentioned a costing for this event to happen, because I didn't know if that was part of the problem or not. If it's not gonna happen tomorrow anyway, so for Ms. Hurley's answer, I'm thinking we're heading in the right direction. As long as it does happen and it doesn't fall through the cracks, I'm quite willing to just let this. It's only a learning step for me anyways, the whole concept of the notice of motion. Just trying to get a handle on the job.
No problem. And again, in future, happy to answer any of those questions or help along with preparing those notices of motions, and we'll go from there. So with that, I think what we'll look for, if I'm going to look to Ms. Page on this, as I continue to learn some of this notice of motion stuff too, is we're looking for a formal withdrawal of the motion then, and then we'll move forward as according. So Councilor Byrne, that would be for you to withdraw the motion.
Through the chair, I formally withdraw the notice of motion I made last meeting 3 weeks prior. I don't know what the date was. And as long as the staff and everything gets on board with this, I'm okay with it.
Thanks very much. Okay, carry on. We'll move forward. So that before us, we now have the confirming bylaw, which is that bylaw number 2023-74, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the meeting held November 6, 2023. Be read a first, second, and third time and passed the 6th day of November, signed by the mayor clerk and a corporate seal attached thereto. Moved for the confirming bylaw, Deputy Mayor Huntley, Councillor Natchoff, all in favor. That is approved. Motion to adjourn the meeting. Councillor Edgerton and Councillor Natchoff, all in favor. That is approved. There's a number of upcoming events in meetings. As I mentioned, the most important is the Remembrance Day service at the Cenotaph in Main Street, downtown Millbrook. That starts formally at 10:45, but do show up early and hopefully dress accordingly to the weather, because it is obviously all outdoor, but you are invited to the Legion afterwards for a refreshment. After that, we have our regular council meeting on Monday, November 20th at 1 p.m. in the council chambers. The Cavan Monaghan Public Library Board meeting is Tuesday, November 21st at 7 p.m. at the Millbrook branch. Millbrook Valley Trails Advisory Committee meeting is Monday, November 27th at 4 p.m. council chambers. Regular council meeting is Monday, December 4th at 1 p.m. We have our special council budget meeting Thursday, December 7th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then we have our regular council meeting Monday, December 18th at 1 p.m. In addition to that, I should have mentioned before the last regular council meeting, we also have the Santa Claus Parade, which is scheduled for, I believe, 1 p.m. on Saturday, December 9th. Got all that right? There you go. So we'll look forward to seeing everyone at all or any combination of those future meetings.